Here at St. Clair College, it's about you. It's about your passion, your skills, and stepping up to the challenge. St. Clair College has 3 campuses in Windsor and Chatham. It's here where we rise above, where we soar to our full potential, providing over 120 advanced diplomas, degrees, and graduate certificate programs. Our reputation as a premier educator and our commitment to academic excellence is seen in all we do, from programs in community studies and the arts to engineering, technology, and skilled trades. With the new Zekelman School of Business and Information Technology, with both a physical space and curriculum to ensure that graduates are the leaders of tomorrow. St. Clair College offers a wide range of activities to enhance campus life, from varsity and intramural sports to the state-of-the-art health and fitness facilities. There's something for everyone. Our students and faculty are an important part of our community. The college's mission of excellence in all we do is shared by faculty, administrators, and staff as they prepare students with careers that will shape the economy of tomorrow. Our relationship is ongoing with graduates that ultimately enrich our current programs for student success. It's here where we feel welcomed and inspired, and where we become work-ready. St. Clair College, it's time to take flight. Rise above the ordinary.
Good morning. My name is Andreas. I'm the Business Development and Commercialization Manager at OCI, Ontario Centre of Innovation. My organization supports innovation through industry academia partnerships, 5G testbeds, and initiatives like AVEN to support the next generation technologies in mobility. So to today's theme, when we consider the expression virtual, augmented, or mixed reality, we may think of Microsoft's HoloLens or Facebook's Oculus, or just a cardboard box that someone gave you at a trade show sometime before March 2020. But if you step back, these gadgets are all products related to ancient methods of communications that evolved from messengers, telegrams, letters, and phone calls to modern days emails, chats, video conference, Skype calls, etc. And now, the perceived obstacle of geographic location difference is starting to become almost unnoticeable. Not only has augmented reality evolved, but the world has changed dramatically, and we need to overcome obstacles of not being able to be close to each other at the same time and in the same room. We have reduced travel and may need to find solutions to train people off-site to learn the basics before investing in real-world training. We may 3D scan an entire building on the inside to measure if our equipment will fit and work in that environment. These changes are sometimes cumbersome, but they also present opportunity to get things done faster, more accurately, and safer. Virtual and augmented reality in industry is practical use of a technology that will help you stay competitive, on time, independent of border and local restrictions. But to take advantage of a technology, to use it to either save or make money, we need to understand how it works and why we should care. In today's breakout session, you will learn about the hardware, software, use cases, solutions, and hopefully how it applies to your industrial environment. So it is with great pleasure that I introduce 2 gentlemen that will speak on the subject from 2 different perspectives, hardware and software. We will have time for some Q&A at the end of the presentation, and please use the Q&A section to write your questions on your right-hand side. Our first speaker is Sean Graglia from Microsoft Canada. As the mixed reality lead for Microsoft Canada, Sean helps customers realize value from solutions that blend physical and digital worlds powered by Azure, HoloLens, and mixed reality apps. Sean drives value from technology transformations across multiple industries and disciplines. Our second speaker is Harold Dumur, founder and CEO of OVA, whose product Stellar X, as it sounds, is the best tool out there for non-programmers that want to collaborate together and develop their own interactive XR environments, and through simple grab and drop creation. So let me start with Sean. We hear so many different names: mixed, virtual, augmented reality. The acronyms are AR, MR, VR, and then even XR. Perhaps you could start by defining, what do they all mean?
Happy to, Andreas. Thanks for the wonderful intro. Let's take a look at a pic that I actually found on Forbes.com, and it really pulls together what the different definitions are. We're all used to the real world, which we live in, but at the other end of the scale is the first thing you see on the graphic, virtual reality, and that's where everything is computer generated. So we have that. And then in between, there's augmented reality. And think of this as your heads-up display that we're seeing on cars these days, a way of augmenting the world with a digital overlay like we might see in a manufacturing environment and seeing from IoT sensors how the machines are performing. Finally, we have mixed reality, which I've seen sometimes called extended reality. And it really refers to I think the best of both worlds. You've got the real world mixed with virtual worlds. And here I like to think a little bit about the holodeck in Star Trek, where you're interacting with real people, but you're also working and interacting with virtual people and holograms. So that's how I like to think of a common understanding about what the technology means. Now, let's bring this back to what that means to manufacturing. If we just go to the next slide, taking a look at what we see in the manufacturing environment. The Canadian manufacturers in a recent study that we're seeing here really take a look at this from a manufacturing and technology lens, and I came up with really 3 things that were common throughout the report. And the first one being workforce training, the need in manufacturers to very quickly bring people up to speed, have them retain their knowledge, and being able to accelerate and get them working in the field. The second thing that popped out at me was the labor shortage. And we've seen this certainly in the past couple of years as frontline workers are being tough to find these days. And so we need to find out ways that we can actually stretch our labor that we have. And the third thing that popped out was reducing the carbon footprint. So we need solutions that enable us to be where we maybe not necessarily are physically and reduce the carbon footprint of sending people around. And this really speaks to the sustainability motion that I'm seeing, not just in manufacturing, but also in the energy industry. So as we explore this session, we'll think about these 3 themes and how we might help in those different areas. Let's take a look then. I'll talk a little bit about the Microsoft view of manufacturing. I'm going to touch on a few of the common solutions we're seeing. I won't go into the breadth because it gets quite wide, but we are seeing a lot of value in mixed reality solutions in manufacturing. We'll just go to the next slide, and I'll talk about some of the more common ones. Now, mixed reality has a role to play as complex as digital twins and being able to review the manufacturing line even as you're going through it, or being able to change the line in virtual or augmented reality before you make expensive decisions on making those changes. That is absolutely a use case that we're seeing talked about more. But really where I've seen that the meat, especially in Canada, are really 2 areas where very common in the manufacturing industry. The first one is in remote support and inspection. So this is the ability to actually phone in an expert and actually have them help you on site, something that Andreas talked about earlier, and being able to be there but without having the expense of being there. And actually help a person on the front line, even though the remote person can be miles away. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. Related to that, I'm also having many discussions about inspection and the ability, particularly when we can't fly the expert or the inspector out, but we want to be able to have those eyes on the ground and direct the people that are local to actually see what's going around. So these are a couple of use cases where mixed reality is playing a role, and we'll talk about those. The second use case, it speaks to the ability to train. And we see guided assembly and training is ramping up in the past few years. We're using mixed reality solutions. The ability to almost clone a teacher, an expert, and have them be able to be guided in mixed reality technology is really amplifying what that expert is able to do in person. So those are the 2 use cases. Let's take a look at how much value you might get from those use cases if we just go to the next slide. And I just wanted to call a couple of things that, a couple examples that we find resonating. At L'Oreal, for example, beauty giant L'Oreal, they wanted to make it easier to have their experts service factory machines, and they couldn't fly everyone around. It becomes expensive. They wanted to reduce their carbon footprint. No matter where they were located, they wanted to be able to get the experts inside. And so they deployed HoloLens, yes, with Dynamics 365 Remote Assist. And that enabled the employees to collaborate on these troubleshooting issues, reduce the time required to actually resolve. And you can see there we've actually reduced by the break fix by as much as 50%. So in L'Oreal, we've seen those the remote support and inspection actually accelerate their business. And then when we look at Toyota, here's another example where Toyota recently deployed mixed reality solutions with HoloLens to transform how their technicians are performing car service and repairs. You can imagine, and we'll talk a little bit more about cars in a minute, but vehicles are becoming more sophisticated, more technology, and it's kind of driving in a direction where we need technology to actually solve technical problems. And so in this case, for example, they've been able to reduce assembly time by as much as 90% from that guided training and that accelerated training. So just a couple of examples of how we're seeing mixed reality generally in the world help manufacturers. Let's take a deeper look at something, a couple of examples that will actually come from Canada. And I'll just go to the next slide. We'll talk a little bit about Mercedes-Benz. Mercedes-Benz has actually redefined how they do vehicle maintenance with mixed reality. And if you caught the media announcement from Mercedes-Benz Canada just last Tuesday, they announced that this solution that we'll talk about, Dynamics 365 and HoloLens, has actually been rolled out to each one of their 59 dealerships across Canada. They've made a bet on mixed reality actually helping their customers get on the road faster, which is really what it all comes down to, is how do you enable the end customer? And so Mercedes-Benz will actually be the first to tell you their cars, I can't believe this stat, their cars have more lines of code, of software code, than the space shuttle, an F-35 fighter jet, and a pacemaker combined. That is the level of sophistication in the cars coming out from the likes of Mercedes-Benz. So that level of sophistication has really driven into a new solution, a mixed reality solution, to help keep those cars on the road. And so although a manufacturer, we're talking about the retail side of manufacturing, which can still spill over into other areas of for example, how you're manufacturing. And so what used to take days of back and forth with the experts, and sometimes flying people in from halfway across the world, can now be taken care of hours and in minutes. And in this example, and you can kind of see a little bit of the video here, where the technician or the shop foreman is actually wearing the HoloLens, standing over the bay of the engine and talking to someone on Microsoft Teams that could be hundreds of miles away. And they're able to provide guidance. They were able to pull up reports and PDFs that tell wiring diagrams and give them the expertise without actually being physical. If you're interested, I'm going to draw up in here in the message window. I'm actually doing a webcast with Mercedes-Benz Canada, and would be happy to have you join us on November 17th. And let's see. Let's try that. There we go. And just hear the stories straight from the Vice President of Customer Services and see how they're adapting that. And as you can imagine, this doesn't just apply to retail. This can apply to other areas in the manufacturing. It's not just high tech that's benefiting from this. Let's take a look at a 100-year-old paper company from Canada that's also benefiting from this on the next slide. So Kruger is a 100-year-old Canadian paper manufacturing company. And they're using the latest technology to actually help train their workforce. And you can imagine at Kruger, they're looking at helping their frontline workers actually operate the machinery by visualizing each step of the way. And they're immersed in 3D guidance. So this is helping them learn faster. They're retaining information better. They're building confidence in the workforce. It eases the transition of retiring workers and onboarding of new employees. And one of the things I liked is, as one of the more senior folks at the end of the video that goes with this, is it's fun. They enjoyed it. It's for the first time, the frontline worker is being empowered with a new sophisticated toolkit in their toolbox. But one of the I want to talk about finish off by one of the most exciting cases I've come across in Canada. And if you actually look at the back of a $5 bill, you'll know the technology I'm talking about in the $5 space bill. We just take a look at the final thing I wanted to go over. You would have heard Christy Michalak mention this in the keynote this morning, MDA. MDA you'll recognize as the manufacturers of the Canada arm on the International Space Station. And here, mixed reality is enabling our country to be leaders in space exploration and with robotic arms. And so here, Canada's MDA, they were engaged by the Canadian Space Agency to really accelerate their learning and training and visualization of their data. And so they developed this custom app actually on the HoloLens that allows people to visualize the telemetry that's going on in outer space, where previously it was just reams and reams of data. And then they're able to make decisions and insights out of the data. The other thing they built is the ability to actually train astronauts from ground controllers on using the robotic arm. Recently featured in a Global News article on this weekend is really the ability to enable hybrid work, where we had the trainers actually could be in Montreal, but the controllers or the astronauts could have been in Houston. So I hope these examples have given you an idea of the real value we're seeing today in Canadian manufacturing. Andreas, thanks for the opportunity to share that today.
Well, thank you, Sean. That was very interesting, and congratulations on your success with Mercedes-Benz Canada. That's excellent news. If I were a business leader, and I would think, okay, great, I'm going to use this now in my training and to train all my employees remotely, but then I cannot use the Kruger example. These are customized solutions, right? So I need someone to help me. So maybe Harold, can you help me? Maybe that will be very
with less code than the Mercedes and the F-35 combined.
Exactly.
For sure.
So Harold, enlighten us on the software side, on the platform with OVA. How does that work?
Yeah, so at OVA, when we started back in the day, and that's what I call nowadays the good old days, because with what we knew about the last 2 years, we can now definitely know that before that it was perfect. And back then, so 7 years ago, when we start OVA, we have this first ask from Lockheed Martin, who asked us to do a virtual reality submarine. And I mean, in 2014, VR was nowhere to be seen. So we discovered actually that was quite hard to program. And that's actually was the right slide to show there with me, and still 2014, keeping the error alone. And I was coding with a friend. So we were only 3 back then. We discovered you need to be a good 3D modeler, a good programmer, and make it up. So we remember, the Lego way, where we used to be a kid and play with Lego and be able to build this world just from the ground up, from our own imagination, or following, a layout. And we decided, why not create a tool that will let anyone, not only non-programmer, but also non-pro user, being able to create their own immersive world, immersive and augmented world. So, being able to do that is quite a challenge, because Photoshop is not for programmer, but it is for pro user. So right now, what you see in this video, it's an example of StellaRX, where you can just drag and drop objects with your mouse and your keyboard, or even from within VR. So it's all about content creation. When a new ecosystem, such as this paradigm shift, is rising from a new beginning, you need content. And StellaRX was there to try in that way to democratize this content creation. What you just saw briefly right there in this frame, actually, it's a visual scripting tool that we have developed. So it's our patent pending visual scripting tool, where people, just by connecting nodes between each other, they can then add up interaction. Because once you create and develop content for this next paradigm, such as when you create a PowerPoint, Sometimes you want some nice and good-looking animation. So same thing when you are in 3 dimension. And actually, I truly believe that Mercedes went into the right decision, because nowadays it's strange to be talking like that in 2 dimension, blocked by this 2D screen. We are 3D species, so we should be able to talk and communicate in 3 dimension our own idea. And I think this is just a normal shift for us as human and 3D species being we are. So on the next slide, I will show you actually another part of collaboration. So in the Sean, you saw the MD example where they were collaborating in a mixed reality setup through HoloLens to HoloLens. This is a Quest 2 to Quest 2, just to take Andreas' main introduction when he spoke about the Oculus. So those 2 persons are inside, actually 3, because there is also the first view that you see. But they are collaborating around the plane, and they can learn how to, repair that plane, even if the plane is not real, is not there. So they are completely blind from the reality as they are in the setup of virtual reality. And what's coming next, which is kind of great, it's a cross paradigm, where cross medium, shall I say, where someone in an HoloLens could be seeing someone from within virtual reality, guiding him on a virtual airplane on how to repair a real airplane where it's there in real time. So you will see that kind of trend of, which is not a trend anymore, of metaverse is all merging together, where there is a blend in between those medium, which is VR and XR. So on the next slide, I will give you some example, actually 2 of them. The first one will be about the Royal Canadian Navy, where they save a bunch of money in travel. But it's not all about money nowadays. We also want to live a footprint, a lower carbon footprint on when we go through our living, our life. And that helps a lot in reducing traveling. Imagine, instead of sending a technician from where we are to, let's say, Finland, you will just have to send one headset, and after that, you will be able to communicate with him or her. And that's yes, saving on travel, but also saving on throwing a bunch of CO2 in the air. For Bombardier, it was all about Q&A, so quality check, quality control, and instead of putting a bunch of LiDAR and seeing where are the defects, and the operator always having to crunch his neck to check out the TV and see where are the defects, and then taking a flashlight to find it. He used the HoloLens 2 headset, so he was able to pinpoint where the defects are and repair it in 260% faster. So on the next slide is the example of, in a video, of how the Navy, the Royal Canadian Navy is using it. There's a bunch of stuff I can't say because, it's defense related. It's not F-35 confidential, but still is the FFH-339 class warship. But on those ship, they are building now training facility, and of course they are shifting from what they used to use as huge simulator and off dome to this only headset. Actually, there is some mission going on, some that are publicized actually in the media, where they have to help and guide people, from a distance. So yeah. And you can see on the left side, total left side, people on the real ship. So they have to go there and to check up that the digital twin was exactly as the real twin, the real objects. And that's something that you will hear more and more, digital twins. So remember that, which is a perfect replica and also connected replica to augmented, mixed reality, and virtual reality. So the next slide is, of course, about Bombardier and the Q&A thing I was talking about. So this is a mock-up of what they were seeing. The red sphere was to showcase a defect that was not corrected. The blue sphere, a false defect, so it's not a real defect, but it needs to be identified as is. And the green sphere as a defect that was identified and to be repaired. So by doing so, they were able to correct those planes quite faster than before. That is for the A220. So Airbus is going into this digital transformation as well. I mean Airbus because Bombardier sold the C series to Airbus, and yeah, on the next slide you will see a demonstration that not only OEM are shifting but also school. So there is a trend. I told you about digital twin. I told you about the metaverse, but there is also nowadays a trend for this kind of digital campus, where even student will learn more and more being connected into that new era, that new paradigm shift, and that has a huge effect on their brain, which I will show you right after this clip, actually. So in this clip, you see exactly what Sean just showed you. So augmented view of checklist, radio button, 3D object in motion, something that you will have been able to drag and drop in your spatial scene, augmented one in that case with our software StellarX. So you can go ahead and show the next slide. So I was talking about, attention level. There is also the retention level, and that have been studied through the past year. So VR, AR have been around since now. And one fact quite interesting is when you watch this kind of PowerPoint, your attention level is around 46%. Of course, nowadays you listen and sometimes you go to do something else. So maybe 46% is not still the case as used to be. But in VR, you're shot from everything, from your phone, from everything. You only see what you want to see and what is proposed to you by someone that want to train you or talk with you. So in VR, the attention level goes up from 46% to 92%, which is huge. So imagine what's happened on your head, and that was measured with EEG, and it's 6 times higher the focus that you will get and the concentration level that you will get. And actually, a class that was inside XR versus a traditional class just beat up the traditional class because of that way of learning. So there is a lot of stuff going on right now. I heard project in the US, in Canada, in China about classroom only with VR and XR headset. So those are just pilot, but there is really a shift happening from the school to the enterprise. So about that shift, I will show you on the next slide. Just looking back at the history, make us learn about where we are heading in the future. And you can see from those movie theater to those 2-screen, HD screen, 4K TV, smartphone, and then boom, in your eyes. But what will make that shift being solid is with 5G. And I will tell you a bit more about 5G in the next slide. So what is 5G? When you watch a Netflix movie, you never have download on your TV the Netflix movie. It's always streamed to your TV. Same thing for if there is gamer in the room, Stadia. It's a way to play video game, and even without downloading that video game. And Stadia is made by Google. So 5G is the opportunity to be able to stream a VR or XR experience without having to download it. So at the end of the day, the headset, which some maybe find sometimes, a bit heavy, but now with the HoloLens 2, everything is well balanced, but they will get lighter and lighter because of 5G stream. You will not have to download it on the edge of your headset. Everything will be on the edge computer and stream through 5G to your head, through your eyes. So big clunky computer or even headset will get smaller and smaller. At the end of the day, it's just about to be a screen and a processor that will process the stream that comes from the 5G antenna. So on the next slide, I will show you just a quick example. If you don't understand what you see on this movie, I will just explain it to you right now. So there is 2 movies back to back next to each other. One is what the person is viewing inside his headset, and on the right side is the headset. That kind of rendering should not be rendered in that kind of headset. It should crash the headset. It should lag and everything. But there is no lag. And everything was rendered not inside the headset, but just like Netflix, but the Netflix of, mix in virtual reality. And that's a huge, huge change. This is why I think there's going to be massive investment and business model change inside 5G, is because this opportunity to bring up forward this kind of new dimension. So yeah, next slide. So you can see no more wire, cut the wire. It's going to be untethered, and it's already there, but untethered with high fidelity photorealistic rendering. So that's like, if you are a fan of the Matrix, just like me, Matrix 4 is getting released soon. And one of the key phrases of the Matrix is "what is real." And I truly believe with retina resolution, what is real? It's a question that most of you will ask yourself once in your life, once you test it out. I went to, in 2018, at the Slush event in Finland, actually, and I tested out something called the Vario. So the Vario, it's a team that's spin-off from Nokia, which was working on this mixed reality few years back, way back before 2014. They spin it off and they developed their own headset, which is a $9,000 headset, so super expensive. Those headsets, by the way, are not any more expensive, and depending on what you find, but they are not far from there. But that headset gives you a retina resolution. So what I was just talking about, it's there, it's released, you can buy it. So next slide. So those kind of experience, with FX, with you can burn that truck into that lava field, that training scenario that has been built, by the way, with StellaX, will not run into an untethered headset. It will only run connected to a powerful computer. But 5G is changing that kind of example to be able to run it into the way I just told you. Next slide. So what's next? In my last slide, yeah, it's hard to skip. Okay, cool. So if you look back to the past again, PC 87, the Apple II, the web, from the DARPANET to the internet, to the mobile, to the XR VR in 2017, where people learn more and more about it, to now machine learning and where AI is going on. And what about all this Wi-Fi, XR, AI? It's, as you can see, it's an intersection point. Everything is converging together right now. This is what we are seeing as in our era. And this is a great, great opportunity for a lot of business. On the next slide, I will show you how. So you may, it's a simple example. You may have heard about chatbot. When you go on a website, you want some help. Often it's not a real human that will help you. It's a bot. So it's a chatbot. And actually, with the Microsoft solution, which is the bot framework, it's a software. So just like PowerPoint software, that's a software. You can build your own conversation. And those conversations are the chatbot conversation. And on the next slide, so those conversations, you can actually export them and integrate them inside an XR environment, or in that case, what I'm just showing you, in a VR environment. So actually, you don't have to be with someone there. You can just plug in the conversation you have made maybe like 2 years, 3 years ago, which is still up to date, and transfer the knowledge from one employee to another, which can review on and on. Often we hear in factory, in shop, I used to be a supervisor, by the way. I graduated as an industrial engineer, so that's a field that I know. There was a lot of people that just jump off the ship and go work for another shop. So as a supervisor, it was quite hard, to retain talent and to retain knowledge. If I had this kind of solution where I can just plug my knowledge in, and then I told him, go in the cafeteria or wherever you want someone new train in the lobby of the factory, or if for big factory there is a place just for that, and put that headset, start session 1. I'll not be there. It's going to be a bot, myself, my twin, my digital twin, my knowledge. And then you can follow and ask myself any question. I have already all the answer put there. So this is the beauty of this intersection. This is the beauty of all the rise of those technologies. So yeah, that's all for me. I hope that gives you a brief scope of what's happening around you and what's happening in that field, in AI, VR, XR, and of course, 5G. So thanks.
Super. Thank you so much, Harold. That was so interesting. Let me see. There you go. Right at the end of the presentation. So at this point, we have some time for some Q&A, questions and answers. And I think, so directed to, since you're on the podium, Harold, maybe we'll address this question regarding the affordability or the investment of the AR VR. What are the
so yeah,
if you can address the issue of cost for all the tech we are presenting, what are the drivers to make this more affordable?
Yeah, so I will answer about the VR, and I will let Sean answer about what's about, the HoloLens, since he better knows. But as you can see, there's going to be a big news on October 29, by the way. So stay tuned. It's called the Facebook Connect. Facebook is driving a lot in this industry about the price point. Nowadays, the Quest 2 is $499 for the biggest one, so roughly $500. And that's super cheap because you don't need a computer. It's just the headset. If you want right now, without 5G, a high resolution, high fidelity VR experience, then you need to be connected to a computer that will be roughly $1,500 plus the headset, which is $500. So that will be $2,000. But most of the time it's going to be untethered. So $500 will be just enough. That's for VR. Now, Sean, at you for the XR.
I understand the nature of the question. It's such a tough question to answer because you've got it broken down into the hardware, which is easier to identify, but then there's the software, which can vary by Microsoft sells the software, StellarX does, and several other partners, and then there's the implementation, which can actually cost in terms of IT rollout, management of the devices, management of the software, and things like that. What we tend to do is use examples of, well, let's consider what the payback is. And I'm just going to share one example here from a partner out east, Cognitive Spark, who you'll see in the report, it mentions that, well, you can save up to $7,000 per call that you don't need to fly out someone for. So if we think along those, what's the benefit we're trying to go to? Sure, the HoloLens retails for just under 5,000 Canadian, but you would want to assess what type of software do I need to run on that, and then what the monthly charges would be on that. Many apps are already packaged that you can use, and I called out a couple in the. There was another question about apps running in the construction space. AEC is a huge area for visualizing BIM data and GIS data. And there are apps out there that you can just subscribe to that will actually visualize it on either a HoloLens or a phone. That will be less costly than a custom solution that help you. So I know I can't give you an exact answer, but hopefully that gives you a little bit of light into the kind of costs that are associated with that.
Great, thank you. I think that was the bulk of the questions were regarding that. So, but I understand. It's the same thing as if you're buying a vehicle for your business. You need to customize it. You need to have racks. If you're an electrician, you need to have the proper equipment on it, and that's kind of the same thing for AR VR. So.
Yeah, but rule of thumb, everyone in a technology shift will go with the proof of concept. So it really depends on your industry size. But myself in my company, when I do a proof of concept on any technology, I always go with rule of thumb between 25K to 50K. So I think is the kind of same thing as a first start. So you get a few headset, you get acquainted with the software solution, and then you can evaluate the ROI, some that we just mentioned and some that Sean just mentioned actually, about traveling, just that cost that is cut. I know that where there is hands-on stuff to be done, so and so on.
Yeah, and I was thinking about that. The whole we have a lot of focus right now on AR, VR, the technology, the HoloLens, and all these gadgets. And maybe Sean, what's your thought on the whole process? I think in a way you would need to almost step back away from the technology and ask yourself, what are the pain points that we're trying to issue or to address? Much like in the Mercedes-Benz example, the issue was it takes too long to fix a vehicle today. It's too complicated. It takes too much manpower. How can we address that?
You've hit on it perfectly, Andreas. It's sometimes the discussions on this technology start out with an innovation team, and they're just exploring. Those discussions don't tend to be fruitful. It's best if it's approached from a business challenge point. We have this challenge. We need to train more people faster on newer technology than we've ever had to do in Industry 4.0. How do we solve that? That's the kind of use case that drives, okay, let's take a look at how we could train your people using mixed reality technology. It could be the simple use cases that I was talking about, and remote support as well. It could go all the way up to, listen, we're designing a new production line. We can't afford to make mistakes before we actually start building out. So how can we visualize this together? It's best to start out with the business case, then take a look at what apps are out there that will actually support that. Because sometimes the apps are growing in the industry. Awesome partners like OVA are building solutions so that you don't have to start from scratch. And then, as Harold mentioned, a proof of concept. Ideally, my recommendation would be with a partner. So going hand in hand with someone like OVA or another mixed reality partner. What we're finding is when people do it on their own, there is a certain level of sophistication that you may hiccup early on, and that may turn you or your business people off from the technology. So if you have a partnership with someone who knows more about the technology, we find that can be successful. Then once you've proved it in the business case, the rollout becomes a business case itself.
You're right, and we're blessed in Ontario to have such a full ecosystem of companies, both large M&As like Microsoft, but also larger SMEs like Harold's OVA company. So I think there's a very good growing ground, and but we need to keep our head on straight. So we're focusing on the business and then using the tool to overcome that issue. I had a conversation the other day about, the company was halting some of the efforts because of COVID, because of restrictions, and we discussed about how about implementing some virtual reality. How far can you go until you actually need to have people on the spots? And I think those are the conversations that a lot of companies are having right now. So with that, were there any other questions?
There was I'm just looking in the chat area. There was someone who mentioned change management, and thank you for calling that out. One of the things I really liked about, and there's actually 2 webcasts that I did with Mercedes-Benz. I'm going to post the second one, which goes more into the deployment, and then we talk about adoption. And I talked to Sam about rolling it out, and they actually had a structured session where they would invite the technicians to experience it, and they would walk them through what it looks like, so that it can just become part of their day-to-day usage. It's absolutely, when we're rolling this out, what is the impact to the field worker? Because this might be technology they've never used before. However, they'll be excited about it because they're not typically the type of roles that are enabled and empowered with this technology. So there's good stuff to be happening there. And of course, the technical change management, but very good call out.
And then I think the last question that we have time for maybe surrounding cybersecurity. And this is where we kind of nudge into the area of 5G, where I think that we'll see a lot more solutions for cybersecurity, for private VPN, and for this systems that will help you. But Harold, do you want to, I think in the question they mentioned the Royal Canadian Navy simulation on Canadarm map. What are the trends there, do you see? How is 5G the answer there to be able to segment your traffic in a certain protected area?
Yeah, exactly. You can have a secret band, so and on that you can secretly transfer everything because it's reserved to you. The defense have already their 5G antenna installed, and the thing that they think of is nowadays to train a soldier you need to bring the soldier to the training facility. Now they want to bring the training facility to the soldier, so that will really help in preparing for C4ISR or other operation in that way. So there is a shift there, and they are actually making that move, and they are working often. I see Microsoft helping them on those kind of things. So yeah, there is a shift, for edge computing, for cloud computing in the government, So I'm saying that like this because often when I used to work with people in the factory field, just having a Wi-Fi is quite hard. So we used to transfer data with Bluetooth when I started, and now they more and more open to Wi-Fi usage. So I just hope that shift can happen because security is there, and even if you are scared of that, you can deploy first in the LAN, so in a local area network, not directly connected to the internet, and even with 5G with this secure band that you can use.
Wonderful. With that, I think we have to stop. We're over time, and so we would direct you to go to the introduction of the second speaker. But thank you so much, Sean and Harold. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and everyone, feel free to reach out if you have more questions, inquiries, etc. So that's what we're here for. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Thank you. Bye. Bye. Thanks.
Bye.